He inherited an old ranch and found 7 widows waiting with his picture. Cole had never imagined that a simple letter could change his life so drastically. For years, he had wandered between mining outposts, forgotten spaceports, and distant colonies, living a life that felt more like survival than purpose. Yet here he was, standing at the edge of a dusty frontier world, staring at a ranch that had once been vibrant, now worn down by storms and time. The lawyer's message had been simple. You are the heir to the Walker Ranch. Claim it at your earliest convenience. He had asked why he, of all people, would inherit a ranch in the middle of nowhere. The lawyer had only smiled and reminded him that some legacies are chosen long before anyone is ready. The trip had been long, the small shuttle rattling over rocky terrain before finally touching down near the old wooden fence that marked the beginning of his new world. Cole stepped off the shuttle and felt the crunch of dry, alien soil beneath his boots. The air smelled different, sharp and metallic with a hint of wild grasses that seemed to shimmer under the weak sunlight. He adjusted his jacket, the one piece of home he had kept throughout his travels, and walked toward the ranch house, every step stirring memories of all the places he had called home, briefly. None had lasted, and perhaps none ever would, until now. The ranch looked like it had been waiting for him. Boards creaked under the wind, windows reflected a sky that was too vast and too empty, and the paint peeled like old skin. A faded sign above the door read, Walker Ranch Est. 2235. Cole paused, noticing a chill despite the warmth of the day. It wasn't the temperature, it was the feeling that he wasn't alone, and he was. 7 figures stood on the porch, their eyes fixed on him. They were women of different ages and species, each carrying an air of quiet strength. Their presence startled him, and for a moment he thought he had arrived on the wrong planet. The tallest among them stepped forward, her stance confident, and spoke in a voice that carried authority without harshness. You must be Cole Walker, she said. Cole opened his mouth, unsure what to say. Yes, I think that's me. You think? Your picture says otherwise, she replied, gesturing toward the main wall of the porch where an old photograph hung. The photo showed a younger version of him, standing beside a man with a kind face and weathered hands. Cole stared, trying to place the memory. He didn't remember being there or being photographed. Who are you? He asked, trying to steady himself. We are the widows of those who trusted this ranch, the tallest woman explained. Your predecessor brought us here years ago. He said one day the right person would inherit this land and continue what we started. Cole blinked, trying to process the words. He had expected dust, decay, and maybe a few abandoned animals. He had not expected 7 women, each stronger and more wary than he had ever seen in his life, waiting for him as if they had been expecting a hero. The second woman stepped forward, her eyes soft but firm. You don't have to understand it yet, but the ranch isn't just land. It's a haven, it's protection, and now it's your responsibility. Responsibility. The word hit Cole harder than he anticipated. He had never held any real power before. Leadership had never been his role. He had been a drifter, a wanderer who took odd jobs and kept his life simple. Yet here the past had chosen him and the future demanded more. I don't know if I'm ready, he admitted, his voice low. The tallest woman's lips curved into a faint smile. No one ever feels ready. That's why you start with small steps. The women guided him inside the house. The interior was surprisingly well kept, though covered in dust. Old wooden beams lined the ceiling, and furniture that had survived decades of neglect stood proudly. The walls were decorated with photographs, maps, and memorabilia that told the story of the ranch and its mission. Cole's eyes kept returning to the pictures. Each photo showed the women with their lost partners, standing proudly beside the previous ranch owner, who had always been at the center, guiding, teaching, protecting. He could see the weight they carried in their eyes, a mixture of grief and hope, loss and resilience. One of the widows, a short woman with silver-streaked hair, motioned for him to sit. Cole, you should know why you are here. The ranch isn't just about cattle or crops. It's a refuge for those who have nowhere else to go. People come here when the frontier turns cruel. When the storms rage, when predators, human and otherwise, threaten those who cannot defend themselves. Cole nodded slowly, the meaning sinking in. This ranch was more than land. It was a legacy, a fortress, and a symbol of safety. And now he was at the center of it all. What about the photograph? He asked, finally. I don't remember ever being on this ranch. The silver-haired woman's eyes softened. Your predecessor knew you before you knew him. Years ago, you saved him during a dangerous mission. He never forgot it. He said one day, the right moment would come for you to take this place. Cole felt a shiver run down his spine. The thought of someone remembering his past deeds, of being trusted in this way, made him both nervous and strangely proud. He had wandered so long, surviving alone, never realizing that his actions had ripple effects far beyond what he saw. Suddenly, the house shook slightly and dust fell from the beams. Cole looked outside to see faint lights moving across the horizon. Ships, scouts. His pulse quickened. The widows noticed too, their eyes narrowing. "The frontier is not empty," the tallest woman said. "There are those who would take the ranch for themselves if they could. They have been watching, waiting. We must be ready." Cole took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. The ranch was more than buildings, more than land. It was a beacon of hope, and now, somehow, it depended on him. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with colors he had never seen on any other world, Cole stepped onto the porch again, looking at the women standing quietly behind him. They were waiting for guidance, but not demanding it. They were offering trust, and with trust came responsibility. He knew he had a choice: run back to the life he had always known, drifting from one place to another, or step forward into the unknown and claim the role fate had carved for him. And as the wind carried the scent of wild grasses and distant storms, he realized he didn't want to run. Cole tightened his jacket, feeling the strength of the land beneath his boots and the quiet determination of the women behind him. The ranch had chosen him. The past had chosen him, and for the first time in years, Cole felt a spark of belonging. He turned to face the 7 widows, each one holding her own story, her own loss, her own hope. "All right," he said, his voice firmer now. "Let's see what this place has to teach me." A faint smile appeared on the tallest woman's face. "Good. The ranch will test you, Cole, but it will also teach you things no other place could." Above them, the sky darkened slightly, and in the distance, the first stars of the evening began to twinkle. Cole looked out at the horizon, imagining the possibilities, the challenges, the dangers, and the life that could finally be his. The adventure was only beginning. And somewhere deep in the shadows of the ranch, the old secrets of the land waited, ready to reveal themselves to the one who had finally arrived. Cole woke before sunrise, the faint light of the twin suns casting long shadows across the ranch. The wind whispered through the alien grasses, carrying a strange sweetness that reminded him of home, even though he had never had one. He rose quietly, careful not to disturb the widows still sleeping in the main house. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of responsibility and a flicker of excitement for what the day might bring. He stepped outside and surveyed the ranch. The fences were old, some posts leaning at odd angles, and patches of grass had overtaken areas that should have been open fields. Beyond the hills, he could see jagged rock formations, and far in the distance, a line of trees marked the edge of a valley he had yet to explore. The ranch felt alive, but it needed care, guidance, and someone willing to stand at its center. That someone was him. The first widow to appear was the tallest one, Mara. Her long hair was tied back, and her eyes reflected experience and patience. She walked up beside Cole, carrying a small toolkit and a calm air that put him at ease. "Morning," she said. "The ranch won't repair itself. I suggest we start with the fences. If we don't secure the boundaries, the wildlife and wandering predators will have free rein." Cole nodded. "I'll follow your lead." The work was harder than he expected. The fence posts were old, some rotted at the base, and the wire was twisted and brittle. Myra guided him patiently, showing him how to anchor posts and tighten the wire. Her hands moved with precision, and Cole struggled to keep up, but he kept trying, determined not to disappoint her or the others. As they worked, Myra spoke quietly. "You need to know more about the ranch than just fences and fields. Each of us has a role. I maintain the machinery and defenses, Leora here is a healer, and Nessa scouts the surroundings. Together, we protect this land and each other." Cole listened carefully. He realized that these women were not just caretakers, they were guardians. Each had survived hardships that he could barely imagine, and yet they were here, committed to a purpose greater than themselves. By mid-morning, they were joined by Leora, the healer. She carried a satchel filled with herbs and instruments, and she inspected the small animals scattered across the ranch. Her gentle hands soothed the creatures, and her calm voice reassured Cole. "You'll need to understand this part too," Leora said. "Life here is fragile. Not just the animals, but people. The ranch can protect us, but we must also take care of each other. Cole nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Protecting the land was not enough. He had to protect the community that had been entrusted to him. After a brief meal, Mara suggested they explore the valley beyond the trees. She explained that it contained part of the old underground network built by the previous ranch owner. Rumors said the tunnels held equipment and supplies from the frontier days, technology that could help defend the ranch if necessary. Cole felt a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The thought of entering underground tunnels left him uneasy. Yet he knew this was part of his responsibility. As they approached the valley, the terrain became uneven, the soil loose and rocky. Cole stumbled several times, but Mara's steady hand guided him forward. The entrance to the tunnels was hidden beneath a large stone slab cleverly disguised. Mara pushed it aside, revealing a narrow opening that led into darkness. "Careful," she whispered. "The tunnels are old but strong. Watch your step." Cole followed Mara inside, feeling the cool air of the tunnels brush against his skin. Strange markings adorned the walls, symbols he did not recognize, etched with care. Some glowed faintly, reacting to their presence. He could feel the energy of the place, as if it remembered the people who had built it and the purpose it served. They explored deeper, revealing rooms filled with old equipment, crates of supplies, and devices that hummed softly with power. Mara showed him how to activate some of the old systems. A small drone that could patrol the perimeter, a shield generator capable of creating a protective field over parts of the ranch, and a communication device that could reach neighboring colonies. "This was the lifeline of the ranch," Mara explained. "Your predecessor made sure it could survive decades without maintenance, but it needs someone who understands it, and that someone is you now." Cole felt a mix of pride and fear. The technology was impressive, but he had no experience with it. How could he possibly take responsibility for something so advanced and potentially dangerous? Yet Mara's presence reassured him. If she trusted him, perhaps he could learn. As they left the tunnels, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow across the ranch. The workday had been exhausting, but Cole felt a sense of accomplishment he had never known. He had repaired fences, cared for animals, and explored the hidden heart of the ranch. Each task reminded him that he was capable of more than wandering from place to place. Returning to the main house, they found Nessa waiting. Her eyes were sharp, and she carried a device for monitoring the surrounding lands. She had already spotted something moving in the distance, outlaws approaching the ranch, likely drawn by the news of Cole's arrival. "They've been watching," Nessa said. "They know someone has taken over the ranch. They're testing us." Cole's pulse quickened. The idea of conflict so soon was unnerving, but he tried to remain calm. Mara and the others exchanged glances, and he realized they had faced situations like this before. They were not afraid, and that steadied him. "We won't let them take what we protect," Mara said firmly. "You need to understand that leadership here isn't about fighting every battle yourself. It's about strategy, foresight, and using the skills of everyone around you. We work together or we fail together." Cole nodded. He knew she was right. Leadership was not just about courage, it was about making choices that protected everyone. As night fell, the outlaws approached the edge of the ranch, their silhouettes faint against the horizon. Cole, Mara, and the widows prepared. Cole activated the perimeter drones, watching as their soft hum filled the air. He set up signals, marking traps and obstacles, and coordinated positions with the widows. It was the first real test of his leadership, and his heart pounded with both fear and determination. When the outlaws reached the outer boundary, they stopped, seemingly assessing the defenses. Cole's calm and measured actions surprised him even more than the appearance of the outlaws. Instead of charging, he waited, letting the drones patrol and signals warn them. Gradually, the outlaws backed away, realizing the ranch was prepared. The immediate danger passed, but the lesson was clear. Leadership required patience, planning, and trust in the people around him. The widows had not just guided him, they had taught him the first principles of protecting a legacy. As they settled in for the night, the ranch seemed to breathe around them. The animals were safe, the fences held strong, and the tunnels hummed softly below, ready for the next challenge. Cole stood on the porch, looking at the 7 women who had become his allies, mentors, and perhaps the first real friends he had ever known. He realized that the ranch was not just a place to inherit, it was a place to learn, to grow, and to prove that he could be more than a drifter. The path ahead would not be easy. Threats would come, storms would rage, and enemies would test them. But for the first time, Cole felt he was ready to face it all. And somewhere in the distance, hidden beneath layers of history and dust, the deeper secrets of the ranch waited for him. Secrets that would not only test his courage, but reveal truths about the legacy he had unknowingly been chosen to continue. Cole turned back to the warmth of the house, the faint glow of lanterns welcoming him. He knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps even direct confrontation. But tonight, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. He had taken the first steps. He had begun to understand the meaning of the Walker Ranch. And as the stars emerged in the sky above, twinkling like distant, watchful eyes, Cole felt that he was no longer wandering aimlessly through the galaxy. For the first time, he had a purpose, a home and companions who would stand with him through whatever the frontier would throw their way. The next morning, Cole awoke to the sound of the wind whispering through the alien grasses and the faint hum of the ranch's perimeter drones. The previous night's encounter with the outlaws had left him restless. Though they had retreated, Cole knew it was only a matter of time before they, or someone stronger, returned. The frontier had a way of testing those who tried to claim a safe place. Mara was already outside, checking the drones and the fences. Her movements were precise and confident, the kind of skill that only came from years of experience. Cole joined her, noticing how natural she looked in command. He realized that he had much to learn about leadership, not from books or theory, but from people like her. "You're improving," Mara said without looking up. "You're learning to think ahead, that's good, but remember the ranch isn't just land or fences, it's life itself. We have to protect everyone and everything here." Cole nodded. He understood the weight of her words. Leadership was not about authority or power, it was about responsibility, foresight, and care. By mid-morning, the other widows had joined them. Leora was tending to the animals, Nessa scanning the surrounding hills, and the remaining 4 women were inspecting the old buildings and supply caches. Each woman had a purpose, a skill that contributed to the ranch's survival. Cole realized that this place was a web of interdependent efforts, and his role was to coordinate, guide, and support. As they worked, a faint signal began to pulse from the old tunnels beneath the ranch. Nessa detected it first, her scanner humming softly in the quiet morning. "What is that?" Cole asked, moving closer. "It's an old communication beacon," Mara explained. "Your predecessor set it up long ago. It can reach other settlements, traders, even distant colonies. I think it was meant for emergencies or perhaps to call for help if someone threatened the ranch." Cole's heart raced. The beacon could draw attention, not just from allies but from enemies. If the wrong people detected it, the ranch could become a target. Yet he also understood its value. It was a lifeline, a tool to protect the community. "We need to activate it carefully," Mara said. "Only send a signal if we truly need help. It will announce that the ranch is no longer unguarded." Cole nodded. He could feel the tension of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This was bigger than fences or livestock. It was about survival, strategy, and the people who had trusted him with their lives. By afternoon, the ranch was a flurry of activity. Cole moved between tasks, helping where he could and observing the women's work. He noticed small things, the way Nessa scanned the horizon repeatedly, the way Leora checked each animal for signs of stress, the quiet confidence Mara exuded while inspecting the drones. Slowly, he began to see the rhythm of the ranch, the flow of life that needed coordination, attention, and care. Then the scouts reported movement again. This time, the threat was closer, more deliberate. Outlaws were approaching, supported by riders carrying weapons and small hover devices. Their formation suggested experience, discipline, and the intent to claim the ranch. Cole felt a surge of anxiety. He had survived danger before, but never with so much at stake. Behind him, he could see the widows readying their positions, their calm resolve a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts in his mind. "We can't let them take this place," Mara said, her voice steady. "But we don't have to fight blindly. Strategy wins where strength alone fails." Cole took a deep breath. He realized she was right. This was no longer about individual courage. It was about teamwork, foresight, and protecting a fragile community. He coordinated with the widows, assigning tasks according to each person's strengths. Mara would oversee the drones and defense systems. Leora would stay inside ready to tend to anyone injured. Nessa would monitor the approach and alert them to any changes, and the others would set traps and guard key areas. As the outlaws neared, Cole activated the perimeter drones, their soft hum spreading through the fields. Lights flashed, sensors tripped, and obstacles revealed themselves along the route the riders had planned to take. The outlaws hesitated, clearly unprepared for such careful coordination. Cole felt a thrill of confidence. They were ready. When the outlaws reached the boundary, a warning shot from the ranch's automated defense system caused their formation to scatter briefly. Cole saw the hesitation in their eyes. This was not an easy target. He felt a surge of pride, but also knew the battle was far from over. Then, Mara activated a hidden mechanism, revealing a small energy barrier that ran across the main entrance to the ranch. The outlaws had no choice but to stop and assess. Cole realized that the technology his predecessor had left was more than tools. It was a statement. The ranch was protected not by brute force alone, but by careful preparation, strategy, and foresight. As the standoff continued, Cole noticed movement in the hills behind the outlaws. Additional figures were arriving, likely mercenaries hired to enforce the claim. The situation was escalating quickly, yet the ranch held firm, its defenders ready. Cole stepped forward, raising his hands to signal. He activated a recorded message through the communication system, addressed to anyone observing the ranch from a distance. His voice, calm and firm, echoed across the valley. "This ranch is protected. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend what we protect. Leave now or face the consequences of challenging those who guard it." The message had an effect. The outlaws hesitated, unsure whether to press forward. They were testing him, testing the ranch, and testing whether he was truly capable of leadership. The standoff lasted for hours, each side calculating moves and countermoves. Cole's confidence grew with every passing moment. He was not just a drifter anymore. He was a leader, coordinating people, technology, and strategy with precision. Finally, the outlaws began to retreat, realizing the ranch was too well defended for a quick victory. Cole watched them disappear into the distance, feeling a mixture of relief and satisfaction. It was only a temporary reprieve, but it had proven something important. The ranch was not just land, and he was not just a man wandering through life. Together with the widows, he had the power to protect what mattered. As night fell, the women gathered around the main fire pit, tending to animals and equipment, sharing stories and lessons from their past. Cole sat quietly, absorbing every detail. He realized that the ranch was more than a place. It was a network of people, skills, and memories, all tied together by trust and purpose. One of the widows approached him, her expression softer than before. "You've done well today, Cole, but remember this is only the beginning. The frontier will always test us, and the land has secrets yet to reveal. Your predecessor trusted you for a reason. We all do." Cole nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility settling in, but it no longer felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt like purpose, the first real purpose he had ever known. The ranch had chosen him, and now he was ready to claim it. As he looked up at the stars emerging in the sky, Cole felt a connection to the land, the women, and the legacy he had inherited. He realized that the ranch was not just a home. It was a challenge, a mission, and a test of character. And for the first time in years, he was not afraid of what lay ahead. Deep in the valley, beneath layers of earth and stone, the tunnels hummed softly. The hidden technology, the secret supplies, and the lessons of the past waited for him to discover them. Cole knew that the future would bring more challenges, perhaps even threats greater than the outlaws he had faced today. But he also knew one thing: he would not face them alone. The ranch was alive, the women were united, and Cole was no longer a drifter. He was a part of something larger than himself, a legacy of protection, trust, and courage that had spanned generations. And as the night settled over the valley, Cole felt a sense of determination that he had never known. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps tests that would push him to his limits. But tonight he allowed himself a quiet moment of reflection, knowing that he had taken the first steps toward becoming the leader the ranch, and the frontier, needed him to be. The adventure was far from over. The secrets of the ranch, the past of its predecessor, and the future of its community awaited him. But Cole felt ready. He had learned that leadership was more than courage. It was strategy, patience, and trust. And with the widows by his side, the ranch was no longer just inherited land. It was home, Morning broke over the Walker Ranch with a soft golden glow, painting the hills and fields in warm light. Cole stood on the porch, watching the twin suns rise over the horizon. The events of the past days weighed on him heavily, yet for the first time he felt the quiet satisfaction of belonging. He was no longer a drifter. The ranch, the widows, and the land itself had accepted him, and he had begun to accept them in return. But the peace was fragile. Scouts reported distant movement again, larger than before. Cole's heart tightened. The previous outlaws had returned, reinforced by a group of mercenaries from the outer colonies. They were after the ranch's hidden resources, and now they had numbers, equipment, and persistence on their side. The test of leadership that Cole had faced in small doses now threatened to become a full-scale assault. Mara joined him silently, her eyes scanning the horizon. They've learned from their last mistake. They think numbers can overcome strategy. They underestimate what we're capable of. Cole nodded, feeling both apprehension and resolve. Then we'll show them. Inside the house, the widows gathered. Each woman brought her expertise to the table, and Cole realized that the survival of the ranch relied on coordination, trust, and creativity. Mara would oversee the defensive drones and barriers. Nessa would scout the approaches, alerting them to any flanking maneuvers. Leora would remain in the infirmary, ready to tend to any injuries. The others would fortify positions, prepare traps, and manage the animals, ensuring no chaos erupted amid the conflict. Cole took a deep breath. "We stand together," he said. "No one fights alone, and no one fights without purpose. The ranch is ours to protect. Let's make sure they know it." The first wave of attackers arrived mid-morning. Hover bikes and small ships skimmed the edges of the fields, moving with practiced precision. Cole felt the adrenaline surge, but he held himself steady, coordinating with Mara and Nessa. The drones patrolled the perimeter, signaling warnings, and the energy barriers blocked the main paths. The attackers hesitated, unsure of what they faced. Cole activated one of the hidden defense mechanisms in the valley. A series of automated traps, long dormant, sprang to life, forcing the attackers to scatter and slowing their advance. Mara called out adjustments, guiding him through the process with calm, precise instructions. Cole's confidence grew. He wasn't just following orders. He was leading, reacting, and making decisions that kept the ranch and its people safe. The battle escalated. Hover bikes zipped across the fields, sending dust into the air, while mercenaries tried to navigate the traps and barriers. Cole coordinated countermeasures, redirecting drones to cover weak points and adjusting the energy shields to protect the widows and their positions. Amid the chaos, Cole noticed one of the mercenary leaders observing him from a distance. There was recognition in his gaze, as though he had underestimated the drifter who had suddenly become a commander. Cole understood leadership was not only about defense, it was about presence, confidence, and strategy. As the fight continued, Cole remembered the old tunnels beneath the ranch. The secret passages and hidden technology could be decisive. He signaled Mara, and together they activated additional systems. Lights flickered, mechanisms hummed, and the ranch seemed to awaken as if it remembered its purpose. Energy barriers shifted to create choke points, automated turrets activated, and drones moved with a precision Cole had never imagined he could orchestrate. The attackers faltered. Their formations broke under the combined strategy of technology and human coordination. The widows moved with skill and determination, each playing a vital role. Cole realized that the true power of the ranch lay not in the land or devices, but in the people and their unity. During a brief pause in the battle, Cole caught sight of one of the women discovering a hidden cache of recordings left by the previous owner. They contained messages, instructions, and lessons meant for the ranch's future leader. As Cole listened, he learned the truth about his connection to the land. Years ago, he had helped save the previous owner during a mission, a seemingly small act that had left a lasting impression. The owner had watched, waited, and prepared for this moment, knowing that only someone with Cole's character could carry on the legacy. The revelation strengthened him. He was not an accidental heir. He had been chosen, prepared, and trusted. The weight of responsibility no longer felt oppressive. It felt meaningful. The attackers regrouped for a final push. Cole knew the ranch could withstand their assault, but he also recognized that a victory through force alone would leave lingering threats. He needed to balance strength with mercy to show that the ranch was defended not by brutality but by purpose and unity. "Hold your positions," Cole commanded. "We fight to protect, not to destroy." Show them they cannot take what doesn't belong to them, but give them a way to leave alive if they surrender. The message reached the attackers. Slowly, their advance slowed, confusion and caution replacing aggression. Cole had learned that leadership was as much about influence as action, and the outlaws were beginning to understand that the ranch was not a target. They were intruders in a place defended by skill, unity, and determination. By late afternoon, the attackers finally began to retreat. Cole watched them disappear into the horizon, feeling a mix of relief and accomplishment. The ranch had held, not because of sheer firepower, but because of coordination, preparation, and trust in the people around him. As the dust settled, the widows gathered around the main fire pit, tending to the animals and equipment. The air was still tense, but there was a quiet satisfaction in their shared success. Cole joined them, reflecting on the lessons of the day. Leadership was not about being the strongest or the fastest. It was about seeing the bigger picture, understanding the strengths of others, and acting with clarity and purpose. That evening, Cole explored the tunnels beneath the ranch once more. He walked among the hidden rooms and equipment, realizing that the legacy he had inherited was not simply land. It was protection, strategy, and the opportunity to safeguard life in a harsh frontier. He touched the walls etched with symbols, feeling the history and dedication embedded in the very foundation of the ranch. When he emerged from the tunnels, the stars sparkled in the night sky. Cole stood on the porch, looking out across the fields, hills, and distant valleys. The ranch was alive, humming with quiet energy and life. The widows, once strangers waiting with his photograph, were now his allies, mentors, and friends. Together, they had faced a threat that could have destroyed everything, and they had prevailed. Cole realized that the ranch was more than inheritance, it was purpose. He was no longer a wanderer without direction. He had a mission, a home, and a community that relied on him. The frontier was dangerous, the outlaws would return, and challenges would arise. But Cole was ready. He had learned the value of trust, strategy, and unity, and he had experienced the power of people working together toward a shared goal. Over the coming weeks, Cole continued to strengthen the ranch. He repaired fences, maintained the drones, and learned the secrets of the tunnels. He and the widows explored the valley, mapping hidden passages and locating supplies that could be used in emergencies. The ranch became a beacon of safety, attracting travelers, settlers, and those in need of protection. Cole's leadership was no longer questioned. He had earned it through action, judgment, and respect for those who stood with him. One evening, as he watched the twin suns dip below the horizon, Cole reflected on how far he had come. The land, the women, and the hidden history of the ranch had transformed him. He was no longer a drifter who stumbled upon a legacy. He was its leader, its protector, and its guide. The Walker Ranch had chosen him, but he had also chosen it, dedicating himself to preserving its purpose for years to come. And as the night settled over the frontier, a quiet sense of peace filled the ranch. The outlaws had retreated, the tunnels hummed softly beneath the earth, and the community Cole now led thrived in safety and trust. The legacy of the previous owner had been preserved, not through fear or force, but through courage, leadership, and the bonds formed between people willing to protect one another. Cole knew the challenges were far from over. New threats, storms, and unknown dangers would arise in the frontier, yet standing on the porch with the women beside him, he felt ready for anything. The ranch was not just land, it was life, legacy, and hope. He smiled quietly, a sense of satisfaction settling deep within him. For the first time in his life, Cole knew where he belonged. The frontier was wide and wild, but at the heart of it stood the Walker Ranch, a home, a sanctuary, and a symbol of resilience. And Cole Walker, once a wanderer, was now its guardian. The adventure had begun when he inherited the ranch, but it would continue as long as he stood watch, protecting its secrets, its people, and its purpose. And in that responsibility, Cole finally found not just a home, but himself.